Welcome to Typecasting, where we're typing our favorite fictional characters on the Enneagram and taking on pop culture by the numbers.
Welcome to Baltimore, everyone. My intros every week have just become me introducing us to the location of the story we're talking about, but I'm so excited to be here. One might say, good morning, Baltimore, or good evening, or good afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. No, I think it's always good morning. Like, that's just like how Baltimore works. It's like
you wake up at
they just reset at like 10 a.m. They're like, okay, there's no afternoon in Baltimore. It's the 60s, and it's like 6 a.m. to maybe 11. You can get
it's
brunch.
always like 6 a.m. in 1962. Like, there's no other option.
Baltimore. Well, that is your host, Lucas Graydon. And you know what I was thinking about today, Lucas, when I was doing my research? I was thinking we could just change the word love and without love to without Lucas. Life is like a season with no summer without Lucas. And it would have the same meaning.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that. I am blushing. But that is our magnificent co-host, Mirjana Tumatua. And I have to say, I know we're going to this is a question I have for you later, but I could not cast you in any one role in this show because I just want to see a one-woman show of you. Like, I think you would kill so many of the roles in this show. Like, just the most versatile Hairspray performer I know.
Hairspray is so much of who I am. Oh, guess what, everyone? Guess what we're doing this week? Hairspray! Hairspray is so much of my personality. Like, I discovered Hairspray around whatever year it came out. I think I was like 10. I think it was 2006. So 10.
Yeah.
And I memorized the movie. I knew and still know most of the dances, like even like every background character. Like, I loved everything. I had a Hairspray themed birthday party. My mom made a cake in the shape of like the Hairspray tin.
Of like the can?
And of the can of Hairspray. And like we had a dance competition. Like, I loved Hairspray. And it is like so fundamental to who I am. And like I just have been loving this season because I feel like we're doing a lot of, like, especially lately, I'm like loving the musicals. It's a lot of content that made me who I am, and I'm just so excited to be here and to be doing this with you.
As soon as we got to like Broadway, I'm just singing along every week. Like, it's so much fun to rewatch these musicals and when my research is just like watching Hairspray the movie, I cannot complain.
I know.
Such a good movie musical. Like, I have not seen the movie in so long. I listen to the soundtrack all the time, but rewatching the movie, I was like, this is a very like well directed, like well composited. The color grading is very like expert level. Like, good job to the production team.
Exactly. And it's about some heavy things, right? It's about fat phobia. It's about racism. It is complicated. But I was actually like incredibly surprised because we covered Glee for 3 episodes. Incredibly surprised how well it aged, you know?
Yes.
Like, there are definitely some things where I'm like, but like nothing I was like, like, it was like, This is actually really good. And like, I think like it could have, if they directed it today, there would be very little they changed. And like, especially because the musical itself was written in like the 80s. So like, I'm like, way to go. Way to actually understand the assignment and to do a pretty good job. Like, I was really impressed.
I'm glad you said that. We are not going to be talking about this character, but all I could think the entire time I watched this movie is that John Travolta understood the assignment. This may be his best role to date. Like, this man deserved an Oscar for his role as Edna Turnblad. Incredible. Transcendent.
Incredible. And, you know, like, it's going to get me kicked out of the theater community one of these days. But, like, I hate the movie Grease. I've always hated the movie Grease. Like, since I was a little child and watched it for the first time, I was like, I hate that she changes herself for a man. When I found out, and I love everything about Hairspray, when I was like 11 or 12, been in Hairspray for 2 years, and I realized that Tracy's mom, Edna Turnblad was also the same guy, John Travolta in Grease, I was like devastated. I was like, no, like he was ruined forever. But I think I was like, well, he grew a lot. I mean, it was like 30 years, so in between. Anyway, I'm so excited. I love Hairspray. What is your journey with Hairspray, Lucas? Since I took the whole front half.
No, that's a great question. I loved the movie when it came out, and I've loved it ever since. I think that was probably like when my obsession started as well. Like, I didn't realize this came out like peak Zac Efron time. Like, this was, I think, right in the High School Musical craze of it all, like right after High School Musical. And so loved seeing him as Link. And that's probably honestly what drew me to watch the movie the first time anyway. And since that, I've been hooked. It was a couple years ago that I think I really got into it again. As an Ariana Grande fan, I sat through the Hairspray Live thing that they did a couple years ago. Not sure I'd recommend that to anyone, but I do have a playlist on my phone. Like, when I listen through the soundtrack, just a couple weeks ago, I was biking to the entire soundtrack of Hairspray, and my playlist is a selection of songs from the movie soundtrack and the Hairspray Live. Mostly Seaweed and Motormouth are the ones that I loved in the live production. Jennifer Hudson just absolutely killed it. And
but
so
Queen Latifah also killed it.
I will say she did kill it.
They're not supposed to be the same person, and like it was amazing that she honestly holds a candle to Jennifer Hudson.
Couple things. Christopher Walken makes me super uncomfy, so I have to listen to the other version of Your Timeless to Me. But you're right about Queen Latifah, and as I was rewatching the movie for the first time in a while today, I love her version of I Know Where I've Been because it feels, I think, more communal. Like, I think Jennifer Hudson has such a powerhouse voice that she is the spotlight of that song in her version, but in like Queen Latifah's rendition, like, and obviously watching it with the movie, just I thought it was such a beautiful picture of like community and the whole chorus coming together instead of just like one person spotlight. So both have their merits. But those are my like two main touchstones for Hairspray. I love it. And my cousin was in it in a high school production a couple years ago. He was Fender. It was surprisingly like a very good production. And I'm kind of a snob about high school theater. So
shout out Lucas's cousin.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited. Like, I literally am bursting. I'm so excited. So let's dive in.
Yes. Let's get into it. Let's start with our very first character today, the star of the show, Miss Tracy Turnblad. Love me some Tracy. Oh my
gosh. I love her so much.
She is a stout queen, and we love her. She's got her updo. She's obsessed with having the latest fashions, the latest hairstyles. Her bump is even too big for the kids who sit behind her in class to see the board, and she rocks it, and she knows it. She loves to dance, and she has to rush home every day after school to watch the Corny Collins show and dance along, and she actually realizes her dream of making it on TV, and as soon as she does, like, she proves all the naysayers wrong. She becomes the fan favorite, and everybody's obsessed with Tracy, as they should be, because she just has this fire and this spunk and this attitude. And when she sees an opportunity to help make things better and to use her voice to help those who need it, she steps right in there. She knows that integration is the new frontier, and she is just incredible. We love a civil rights queen. And I love Tracy Turnblad. I have a few numbers for her, and I don't know if they're the like obvious choices. So I'm excited to see where we're at with her.
You are so funny with the multiple choices lately. I think it's
my new habit. I just pick like 4.
I think you're missing Ian and Lena, and you're like, okay, this is like, let me just like make sure we have at least 4 point of views.
Literally.
I do not have multiple numbers, which maybe that's just like who we are as people. I don't know. I am 110% sure she is an 8. Like, I am not taking anything else. She is a civil rights queen. And like, as we were talking about the difference between the 1 and the 8 with last week in Legally Blonde, I was like, this girl is an 8. Like, I was just thinking about our same conversations that we had between the difference of like caring about what's right from like an just your gut feeling and like an anger inside of you, and then having like it pre-planned and understanding like the complexities of the world. And Tracy is just reacting. She is frustrated that there are not rights for Black people in the 60s, and she did not understand the complexities of it until she started to see her Black friends, and she wants to fix it. She is like, I'm a good dancer, therefore I deserve to be on the show, and if you're going to kick me out, like I'm going to get my way into this show. Like she is, Mom, this is a brand new decade, like your time is coming. And she kind of has, I think, that hope for justice that a lot of 8s have that might be undermined. I also think she's a 7. She's always just like going for it. She's very risky. She's a great friend. Like she has that love and that passion. I can hear the bells. She is singing. She is in love. She is like planning on her whole future. I don't know if that's necessarily an 8 factor, but just like the fact that she like cares about Link so passionately. And just like, I think I do like, and this is more the 8 being a romantic, which is, that is me deciding this based on my friends. So sorry, everyone, because the 4 is a romantic, and I know that. Are they in? No, I do think that she has that romantic mindset, and like where she can just like plan the future, see what it is. So I can like maybe see how you might think she's a 1, where she's like, this is how it's supposed to be. But I think like it's definitely that gut reaction, chip on your shoulder, like we were talking about with Emmett last week, that you like eventually convinced me. She is an 8. Okay. And I'm so excited to hear your point of view. Is that not one of your multiple numbers?
It was not one of the 3 numbers that I had written down. However, the numbers that I had written down, 1 was one of them. But it was one that I was not, like, it was not my strongest choice. And I agree with you on a couple different things. Like I wasn't super convinced by the 1. The key difference for me was that I didn't see the inner critic. Like she is so unabashedly and unashamedly herself. And like, she has lots of external critics, but she won't even let them get to her. Like she is so confident in who she is. I was like, I don't see some of that inner struggle of the 1 with the inner critic. So I can see what I saw as a 1, like being that 8 that you're saying. However, I think the number that I'm most attached to, you mentioned it, is the 7. Like, this woman is just like a walking ray of sunshine. And she also, I think, doesn't like, she's very much like, she goes where the wind takes her. And she is like, okay, I'm going to go do this now. And she cares more about the joy of like dancing than ever. Like, I don't think that she takes into consider, I don't know how to think about it. I don't think that she leads with her mind as much as she does just like with her gut and her heart. And she's just like, okay, this is what we're doing now. This is where I'm going. And I saw a lot of 7 in her in the way too. I forget which character in the past we've talked about this. Oh, I think it was Santana. Maybe like Ian kind of mentioned her maybe being a 7 because she wanted to be famous. And like Tracy has that desire to just like be seen and be out there and like share her joy with people in a way that I connected with the 7. Like I said, I hadn't really thought about the 8, but I definitely think that she is somewhere in between the 7 and the 8. I'm not sure that I am 100% ready to jump on board. So what do you think about that? Like, where do you fall between those two?
I definitely like, so I think we should talk about like her motivation. And I think the difference for me between the 7 and the 8 is just like 7s are, they want to have fun. They're here for it, but their like basic fear is to be deprived of being deprived of life, but also of being in pain. And I think that again and again throughout the show, we see Tracy go through things that could be hard for people around her because she thinks what it is right? Like she does not step back. She rather give the spotlight, and this is different in the movie, but she does give the spotlight to little Inez, even though it could have been hers. And if she just like played it differently, she goes to the march that like, she's like the only white person there. And she even like assaults a police officer. I'm putting that in quotes. She like touches him with her sign and is like, listen to this person, respect Maybelle. She is important to me. even though like she just like doesn't even understand the mindset of someone who is racist, because she's like, this is absolutely wrong, which I think is so 8. And I do think I do think she has that wing 7, but I don't think it's like her core motivation. I think it's like her basic fear.
So if we're talking about basic fears though, I definitely don't see the 8's fear of being like vulnerable or like controlled. Like 8's are really afraid of like being at the mercy of somebody else. And I don't see that as like her basic fear. Like I don't see her. I think she's a very open-hearted person and like immediately makes friends wherever she goes and like is not afraid to like be vulnerable, be herself, like share.
And she also the 7 like helps her with
as
that.
Somebody who just like does face so much like criticism and like constantly being beaten down. She like lets it roll off of her without, I think, even processing it in a way that I think is very indicative of the type 7, where they're just like, I am just going to let it like,
that's I'm so not, interesting.
Like, I think 7s we've talked about like run away from like pain by like, just like, I'm not going to look at it. Like, I'm just going to keep like smiling and being happy. And I see more of that in Tracy.
I just don't. But then she also is like going up to Amber and telling her why she's wrong.
My obligation to announce that Amber Von Tussle
is about to get outdanced.
Tracy Turnblad!
You can't stop an avalanche as it races down the hill. You can try to stop the seasons, girl, but you know you never will. And you could try to stop my dancing feet, but I just cannot stand still. 'Cause the world keeps spinning round and round, and my heart keeps time to speed of sound. I was lost till I heard the drums, and I found my way. 'Cause you can't stop the beat. Ever since this whole world began, a woman found out if she could shake up a man. So I'm gonna shake and shake the best that I can today. 'Cause you can't stop the motion of the ocean, of the sun and the sky. You can wonder if you wanna, but I never am blind. And if you try to hold me down, I'm gonna spit in your eye and say that you can't stop the beat.
Like, I don't think she faces it. She's facing what makes her wrong. She's ignoring the naysayers, but she also she faces it, but she doesn't let it like face her. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I'm kind of confused, because I don't necessarily see that it doesn't we don't get to but she's also not necessarily vulnerable. She's not a very deep person. That's like the other thing. Like, well, I don't think we get to see her like walls coming down.
Part of like, I think 7s have a hard time accessing their depth in that way. Like, I think maybe that's part of it for me.
I just am like so sure I just can't see going again and again to do the challenging thing and going up against like her elders and her teacher, and like she's saying these things to like people who are like in authority over her because she believes in what she believes, and I think that's not necessarily what 7, and like how disappointed she is in Link for not like doing that. Like, she's challenging like everyone who comes in her way, like everyone in power over her, and then even like her love interest. And I think that's like, she is a challenger. And I think she is nervous about him like leaving her, but like at the same time, I don't know. Like, I'm not really like buying 7. I think she has some of those 7 tendencies, but I think they come second.
Okay. Okay. I'll give it to you.
Okay, thank you. It's one of those things where sometimes my gut is just like so strong on one that I'm like, I just am like, sure. Like, I don't know how to convince
totally.
you.
I also think like I didn't do a ton of like Enneagram Institute research before this, so I can't pretend to like have a ton of textual evidence. And I think that you make a really good argument for the type 8. Like, I think we are on the money when we say like 8 wing 7. Like, I don't think there's any question about her wing in there, because she does have absolutely a lot of that like light and joy of, I think, the 7 on her as her neighbor, as her wing.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I just think she's like, I'm gonna just push through it, and I love that about her. I think she just like has no fear. Really, like, I think her fear is that like she could lose what she loves. Because that's one of the most amazing things about this musical. I think it does friendships really well, like, and the complications of it, and like how close they are, and like them all being enlightened. I'm like really excited to talk about our next character, because I think
I was going to say, speaking of friendships,
really gets enlightened as well as being a good friend.
Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce our next character?
Our next character is Penny Pingleton. And I am going to be exclusively talking about Amanda Bynes, because she is Penny in my mind. Like, I love them together. And I know Amanda Bynes has done a lot of incredible work, but that is definitely the peak of her career for me personally.
Agreed.
She's just so amazing.
I don't know. The Amanda Show was a tour de force.
Oh, yeah. That doesn't even
anything
count, because
after
that
the
is
Amanda
like,
Show, yes.
that is obviously.
Right. But yes, in terms of beyond Amanda Show, definitely hands down.
Absolutely.
Penny Pingleton. I also love Allison Janney. And I love that she plays like the same mom in so many different movies. Like, her mom is very much, it reminded me of The Help and like Emma Stone's mom, and it's the same actress. Like, I think she really has that. Like,
that was so specific.
brand.
I feel like I did not know.
I had to look her up on IMDb.
I was like, wow,
because I was like, know her name? I think this is the same mom.
Yeah, and it's like both
Allison
the 60s.
Janney,
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That is so funny. Well, I love Penny. Penny is Tracy's best friend. Penny is very much our, like, she's honestly kind of like childlike, very like, she always has a popsicle. She's very like unaware of the world and just like along for the ride. I am obsessed with her, but she's so loyal. She does the hard things when it's the right time to do it. I love her role in I Can Hear the Bells. She is like following Tracy around and is like, is she okay? Like, she takes her to the nurse and she's like checking on her in the background. Like, she's such a funny background character. But she also has her own like really beautiful storyline, falling in love with seaweed and just, and understanding the complexities of what that is, because seaweed is a Black character, a Black person and a Black character, and, how their relationship kind of takes fold in the 60s. Is really complicated and beautiful, and I love that.
I don't remember what exactly it is that Motormouth Maybelle says to them when Seaweed first introduces her to Penny, but she says like, love is a gift and it's going to be really hard for you two. And like, she, like, speaking of like that, I think their relationship is really beautiful in the way that she even prepares them, and she sees them and she's like, this is going to be hard, but if you two have found each other, like, it is worth it. Oh, love it. I also, it was
so sweet.
I think I agree with what little hints you were laying down about her type.
Really?
I think she's a 6. I think she's a loyalist. I don't remember. Maybe it even was during I Can Hear the Bells, but there was some point watching her relationship with Tracy. No, when Tracy goes to audition and Tracy's like, I'm so excited to be here, or I'm so excited to audition. And Penny says, I'm so excited to audition. I'm so excited to watch you audition.
Yes. Be here watching you audition.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here watching you. Like, and she means that genuinely, and she is just such a steadfast friend. And I think she finds those like systems of support in her friendships and in her relationships. Like, I was just like, what a beautiful, like, 6 friend to Tracy, that like Tracy has that support system to lean on. She, like, Penny is not necessarily a big fan of Corny Collins. Like, she's not necessarily a big dancer, but she is going to run home with Tracy every single day after school and like dance along with her to the Corny Collins show, because she loves like spending that time with her friend and being there with Tracy. And I think it's such a beautiful, like, you're right. Like, the show just does friendship really well, I think. And I love Penny and Tracy's friendship. And I think that it is definitely a 6-8 friendship. I will say, to close the loop on Tracy real quick, my third number that I did have for her was the type 6, because I wondered if Tracy was a counterphobic type 6, the ones that like kind of like Mercedes that we talked about, that are like more rebellious and they are like fight the power and they are maybe a little bit more bold and brazen. And then maybe Penny was that phobic 6 and they were like a little reflection of each other. I'm very happy with where we landed on the 8 Wing 7, but that like was a thought that crossed my mind after I had typed Penny as a type 6.
Oh, that's very interesting. Well, here's the deal. I totally agree. The line that stole it for me in this show is when Seaweed introduces the gang. So at this point, Link, Tracy, Penny, and himself are like with Maybelle. And he just like introduces everyone. And Penny goes, I feel very safe and secure to be here.
Doesn't she say scared? I'm very excited and scared to be here.
Well, looks like y'all took a step out of bounds. What we got here? Mama wants you to meet my new friends. This here's Link, Tracy Turnblad.
This is just so Afro-tastic.
And this young lady right here is Penny Pingleton.
I'm very pleased and scared to be here.
Oh, now, honey, we got more reason to be scared on your street. Until you put that record down, you gonna...
I thought she said secure to be here and was like obviously not actually secure. And I like, and maybe it's a Baltimore thing. I thought it was not, I thought it was like, if you look at her, you can tell she's absolutely not secure. But I thought it was supposed to be funny. Like, oh my gosh. And maybe I was like, honey, I know you're not actually secure to be here. And Lucas pulled up the subtitles and they do say scared, but I think that they messed up, which they do all the time. Like if you listen to the Office Ladies podcast, they're always like like the iTunes versus like Netflix has different things. And they're just people too who make mistakes. So I think it's up to the listener, and I think she's a really sweet gal, but I also think she's a 6. And not but he could be most 6s are very sweet gals.
Yes. Oh, of course they are. I love Penny so much.
Oh my gosh, she's so fun. And I do think though, like she was raised by a mother who oh my gosh, me and my best friend Danae, my whole childhood would always, when we were like mad, we'd be like, devil child, like put holy water on each other when we were like jokingly upset with one another. And it was just really funny. So I'm really excited about her being a 6. I think but how is she not supposed to be? Like she has a bomb shelter in her basement / I don't know if it's a bomb shelter or just if your dad comes home shelter. There's a little bit of both.
There's jokes about, I think, like the Red Scare. There's like Russian language books. So I think it was about like if communists took over, like that's where they would like live out their apocalypse.
But also that her father is in prison. So I feel there's jokes about that. So I'm like, I think it could be a double win. Or he's like in prison because he is some post-apocalyptic.
Part of all of that too is like unique to the movie because in the musical she just goes to jail and they needed like a new jail thing. So I think that's probably one of the murkier parts of like what is actually happening here. We're not really sure.
I love it,
well,
but
what do we think about her wing?
I think she also has a wing 7. I think that's like why she's so down to clown all the time and like doing all these random things and just like, ooh. And I think she runs from negative feelings, if anyone does. Like, and she doesn't want to process like why her relationship with Seaweed might be like tricky. Like we don't really get to explore it, but I have like this like backstory in my mind, and like also just like without love, like the little yeah, exactly, the headcanon. And like I think like just like without love and just like talking considering, like she's just like very like here for it. And I think that she definitely like runs from like the fear that her mom, and like she's just always like, oh, I'm scared I'm gonna get caught, but I also want to do it. Like I think that's like the conflict every 6.7 knows. She's just also not a 5. Like she doesn't have a 5 in her butt.
Agreed. Okay. So excited. I know we have been talking about him quite a bit since we started talking about Penny, but our third character today is the one and only Seaweed, Mr. Seaweed J. Stubbs, as he introduces himself to Tracy in detention. He is kind of like king of detention. All of the kids are in there hanging out, having fun, dancing around. And I love his fast friendship with Tracy. His mom is Motormouth Maybelle, who works at the Corny Collins show as well and is a disc jockey. And he has, I mean, one of the best songs in the whole show. So I love Seaweed.
Oh, absolutely.
very excited to type him, mainly because I found myself, I thought it was pretty easy. So, but if we disagree, that I'm going to be very intrigued.
I actually thought this one was really, really hard because I think his actions are very different than his song. I think that's why I got confused because like his whole song is it's a beautiful ode to like blackness and just like, especially in the 60s, just like owning who you are. And like, I think it's very interesting. Again, like I think it might be deep. I'm not sure, but like all of the black kids are in detention and like, you know, I have a strong feeling it was like a forced integrated school and they literally don't do anything and then they just get sent to detention. So they've kind of made it their place. And then like all the kids want to get in and learn all the dance moves of like cultural appropriation. Like they write a song and then the white kids take it. It's like very like nuanced. Like I want to know like what the inspiration was and who the writers were. I don't really know. But I love his song, Run and Tell That. However, I felt as though it didn't like fit in his personal narrative. So I think Seaweed is a 2 because Seaweed puts all the people around him first. I think like he is a really, really good big brother. I think he values relationships above all else. Whether it be with his mother or with the people around him who deserve, like, I think he is the activist because he cares about so many people who are influenced by it. I think he makes some bad decisions because the people he loves are like going through them. I also could see because of that he might be a 4 because he like is a romantic. He's telling a very beautiful story of what is happening to black people and he like relays it so well. One of the things like I get kind of like it's a trope in media I get annoyed with is like we're in the white world and then we see the black story and there's a white savior, you know, and like Tracy is definitely that. I do think she also like it's just about marginalized people, like, and I think it's just like really cool and beautiful. But I mean, like, that gets annoying, but I also think that he is a really good character to do that because he is a strong person. He cares well about others and like about the people in there. And he's a really good friend. Again, like, I just think this show does friendships really well. And he is incredibly relational with Tracy and then like his family members. And I just, and then Penny and how he loves her. But I also think he's just really empathetic and like even understands her situation and can like, is artistic in the way that he moves and dances and sings and can and tell who he is. Like we haven't had a 4 in a really long time. And I was like, wait, do I see a 4 on screen? But if you thought it was easy, I'm like really excited to hear what you think. Cause I had a really hard time and those were the 2. I just saw really strong empathy. So I was like, they're 4 or 2.
Okay. Interestingly, the number that I had settled on was the 3. And like the 2 and the 4 are on either side of that. So maybe like he has a really strong wing 3 and then like it's one of those other 2 numbers. For me, and maybe I was basing it more primarily on his number and like on Run Until That. Like he exudes this like confidence, this charisma. He's very much like a presenter of himself, I think. Like he knows how to like really put on the charm and make friends and influence people, quote unquote. And that's where I saw the 3. I love what you have to say about the 2 though. Like of the numbers that you put forward, 2 really speaks to me. And I just think about the way that he is like, even in that number, he's like, oh, this is my little sister, Lil Inez. Like show them what you got.
Come here, girl. This is my sister, Lil Inez.
Oh, I know Tracy Turnblad. Good for you, girl. You got on the show. Well, you better be nice. You got that right.
Oh, you know she is. You better show her, girl.
I'm tired of covering up all my pride. Give me 5 on the back side. I got a new way of moving and I got my own voice. So how can I help but to shout? Oh, the people out here can barely pay their rent. They're trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. We got a spirit, but it just came back. It's deep as a river, it soars to the sky,
Like let me put you on stage and like let me share the spotlight with you and like use like let me introduce you to all my new friends. The way that he even takes like his crew, like he takes like Link and Tracy and Penny under his wings so immediately and is like, come over to my place, and like introduces them to, he is, like you said, like that entryway or like that gateway into the quote unquote like black world and like black experience for these characters. But he's such a natural like guide and leader for them, and he like takes them under his wing so quickly. I also just think about like immediately, and obviously this is like just part of how many bars there were in the song or whatever, but like immediately after Penny is like locked up, he is at her window and he's like there to set her free. Like he is so like there and ready to help.
Exactly.
I like the two a lot, and it was not immediately on my radar, but I love that.
And I think like the other thing about him is he gives other people, I don't think he's a 3 because of how frequently he gives other people the spotlight. Like the only reason that Tracy gets to be on the show is because she brings fresh new dance moves that Siwi made up, and he allows it to her. Yeah, and he like, and she asks permission, which is so essential. Like that's what I mean. I'm like, this was really good for 2006. Like
100. I thought the same thing.
Yeah, and like he asks permission, she says yes, and the entire time she's on the show, if anything comes up about Negro Day, she is there to demolish it and integrate. And like she's very aware of it, and she always wants to pay back what she got from him. And I don't think it's lost in the show. And I think so anyway, I think that like negates the 3. I think that also like shows the 2 because he cares about her.
Speaking of the way that just the show aged and things that I was like, good for you, Hairspray. I loved at the protest as they're walking and as Maybelle is singing I Know Where I've Been, Tracy, like she was not singing in that number. Like she may be singing backup or whatever, but I was very much like, this is not Tracy's number. This is not like, she is here. Like it was just, I thought it was a very good model until she quote unquote assaults the cop. Like, and even then she's just trying to stand up for her friends. Like she is like, I'm here to walk alongside you, not to like commandeer this. Like I was
exactly. Just like, well, and how beautiful too is it that like, first of all, they know, like, it also shows her privilege that she feels like she can approach the officer.
Right.
And then it incites like and becomes an unpeaceful protest at that moment, right? Like that she like touches him, and then they all feel like they have an excuse to attack the people. Right. And like she has the privilege to do that because she has the privilege not to understand that she can't do that. And like instead of having like Seaweed do it or someone else, like it's just so complex. And like I think everything was just like really well thought out. And I wonder if there's a black writer a part of it. I don't know. Or if they just did a lot of research, because I mean, I think they treat the black characters in this pretty well.
I don't know the answer to that question specifically, but I just learned like in the last couple of years that Hairspray was a movie first, like a non-musical movie that they like turned into a stage musical. So, and I have not seen that thing all the way through, but I like wonder how much of that like was adapted and changed versus how much of that is from the original script. Like it's passed through so many hands to get to the 2007 like movie adaptation. So good on the teams, whoever they were and wherever they were, as they were like building the story and like adapting it, that we got what we did.
The original movie is so funny because it's so obviously like, I'm like, how did you guys not know this was meant to be a musical? Because it is still like a dance competition, and there still are dance numbers, but they just like don't sing. And like, it's more like a pageant than like dancing. And I do think it's in the 80s. It's like, that's what Ricki Lake is and like why she's there.
Yes.
But it doesn't make any, I'm like, how could you have not made this a musical? But again, still the 80s, and I'd love to like, if anyone knows like a good documentary to watch. I'm not about to read about it, but like I don't want to do my own research, but if there's something already made or a podcast, I am willing to listen. Okay, do we have time to talk about our homeboy Zac Efron?
Why not? I feel similarly to Vivian, where I'm like, okay, I have one number, I'll put it out there. If we disagree, maybe we can put it to a poll. But
okay.
I think he's a type 3. I think he loves the spotlight, and he's very concerned when it comes to actually like when things start to get real and he has pushback, his main concern is like, there are going to be agents there. Like, I need to focus on my career, my ambitions, like, and it takes him a second to overcome some of that and like reorient himself. So for me, I saw the type 3. What do you think?
I saw the type 9, but I think you're right because he did not want to shake the boat. With his relationship with Amber, he was like a bystander. Like, he was not a willing participant. He has a hard time with the protests. Like, I saw the 9 that he didn't want to stand up for what was right, and it took him a second to get there. That's kind of his arc. We don't get a ton of time with him. Like, a lot of the things about him is that he's like a pretty face. So like, I don't want to like commit, but I also, even when you just said that, I was like, ooh, I do see him being like a phobic 6 also. So I think he's definitely the 369 triad.
Yeah. 369.
I think we leave it up to the listeners again. I think we'll do, last week we did a poll. This week we'll do a slider. And we'll do a 369, see where you like, where the average and the median ends up. I'm really excited to see. I think that 3 is a good point because I think his motivations for being a peacemaker are more leaning towards his image, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's see.
Love it.
I love Zac Efron.
Me too. Have you seen his?
There were a lot of rumors that Nikki Blonsky and Tracy were dating.
You mean Nikki Blonsky and Zach?
I think we broke up for a second there.
Oh, you just said Nikki Blonsky and Tracy were dating?
There were a lot of rumors that Tracy... I did it again. Nikki Blonsky and Zac Efron were dating. And I don't know if they actually were.
Did she ever come up on your TikTok? Because I get a lot...
What? The real Nikki Blonsky? Ex-Cold Stone worker? My favorite video of all time is her finding out she was going to be Tracy Turnblad in her Cold Stone.
I don't think I've seen that video. Before we leave, we are about to announce what characters we're talking about next week. But before we get there, I have a question for you. I can't believe it took me this long to ask it. Who would you play in this musical? Because I know my answer.
Well, because one of the things about this musical is that it's very important what race you are. So I don't have any options. So I did audition on Broadway off Broadway to be Little Inez when I was like 9 or 10. So I have a place in my heart for her. I'm not a very good dancer, which is why I don't think I got a call back. I don't but and I also thought like Zac Efron. I watched on Ellen that Zac Efron was going to be in Hairspray. And then I begged my mom to let me audition for it when it came to, because I think their pre-run was in Chicago. And she was like, fine. And I think it was just a video. I feel like I would have remembered a real audition. Anyway, so I feel like it'd be her. If not, I actually think like I could have been a good Tracy. But I think
agree.
like she's the character in musicals I identify with the most probably. But unfortunately you have to be white.
It's a hard show to cast race blind because it's you literally whereas like can't. Hamilton like is all about like casting people of color, but this is very much about like yes. Really, it was all about me getting to say, do you know who I would play?
Corny Collins. No. Who would you play? Edna.
Yeah, if I am not Edna Turnblad, excuse me. I love your confidence.
I'm so sorry. I just was like, oh. I was thinking, I'm sorry. You're right. I was wrong. I was very wrong on that one.
Every time I watch this show, I'm just like, I would kill at Edna. Like
you would.
One day.
I am sorry. I almost want to like take that again, but I'm like, no, that was my live reaction. Yeah, I know. It's like my favorite show, and it's a show I'll never be able to be in because I do not have the capability to be Maybelle, unfortunately. Maybe if it was like a small community theater.
You could definitely, yes. That's as far as I'm getting with my Edna.
She belts a lot. I'm not a good belter. So, unfortunately. but she's gorgeous and beautiful and perfect. I love her. And I think I'd have to be like 20 more years. Like really, if you're a Black woman, you get to be Inez. You have to be really on different ages.
On one end of the age range.
Yes. Speaking of age ranges, what's next week?
We are heading. I'm all about geographic location. Why? But we are heading to Greece for some Mamma Mia.
Can dance.
You can dive. We can't sing over.
I said dive. Like.
Well, you can dive in the waters of Greece.
I love Greece.
Who are we talking about?
We are talking about Donna. We are covering Rosie, Tanya, and potentially Sophie. We really are just going to go for Dinah and the Dynamos because I feel like it's going to be fun. I think we'll probably have time for Sophie as well. For my research, I'm doing both Mamma Mia 1 and 2 because that's one of the main reasons I think we picked them. And so we'll be pulling from both. But I'm really excited.
Also, I think arguably, and we'll get into this, we've been talking about a lot of movies and a lot of musicals. I think arguably the best movie musical, Mamma Mia. Like
I would say Hairspray is definitely a little above it for me.
Maybe the biggest improvement is what I mean. Like, I think that Mamma Mia, the movie, is so much better than Mamma Mia, the stage show. I think, like, Hairspray, the movie, is better than Hairspray, the stage show, but I don't know if it's as much better. Does that make any sense? Maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's one of those things that I've never seen either of them on Broadway, so it's not really fair for me to say. But what makes Mamma Mia is like the Grecian scenes, and you can't do that on stage. I feel like it would be just like a party. That would be fun, but I can't imagine it on stage being well done. I've seen it actually, I don't even think I've ever seen it on stage, so that's why I can't have a good opinion about it. Where Hairspray, I hate the stage musical. I did audition and I did listen to. The story's worse, and the Tracy is like told to sing poorly, and I just don't like it. It's a style choice, but it's just not my thing. So I have to say I still vote Hairspray, but we can maybe put that one on a poll too.
Okay, love it. Well, can't wait. We'll talk about it next week.
Right, love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Typecasting. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at TypecastingPod, where you can vote in our weekly polls. Leave a review and be sure to join us next week when we take on more pop culture by the numbers.